Hello students, welcome to our first module of class 8 history, our past 3, chapter 7, civilizing the native, educating the nation. In this module, we will discuss about the effects of colonization on the education system of India. So let us begin. In the initial stages of the British rule, the priorities of the British East India Company were conquest, expansion and consolidation. Therefore, they did not interfere with the educational system of India. In fact, education was completely neglected by the company. However, after territorial conquest and having established control over Indian revenues, the British felt that they had a cultural mission also to civilize the natives and change their customs and traditions and values. Let us look at what the British thought and did and how some of the ideas of education that we now take for granted evolved in the last 200 years. In the process of this inquiry, we will also see how Indians reacted to British ideas and how they developed their own views about how Indians were to be educated. There were two schools of thoughts. The first was of the Orientalist. Let us see the tradition of Orientalism. In 1783, a person named William Jones arrived in Calcutta. He had an appointment as junior judge at the Supreme Court that the company had set up. In addition to being an expert in law, Jones was a linguist. Now, linguist is a person who has knowledge of several languages. He had studied Greek and Latin at Oxford. He knew French and English. He had also picked up Arabic from a friend and had also learned Persian at Calcutta. He began spending many hours a day with pundits who taught him the subtleties of Sanskrit language, grammar and poetry. Soon he was studying ancient Indian texts on law, philosophy, religion, politics, morality, arithmetic, medicine, and other sciences. Jones by this time had discovered that his interest was shared by many British officials living in Calcutta at the time. Englishmen like Henry Thomas Colebrook and Nathaniel Halhed were also busy discovering the ancient Indian heritage, mastering Indian languages and translating Sanskrit and Persian works into English. Together with them, Jones set up the Asiatic Society of Bengal and started a journal called Asiatic Researches. Jones and Colebrook came to represent a particular attitude towards India. They shared a deep respect for ancient cultures, both of India and the West. Indian civilization, they felt, had attained its glory in the ancient past but had subsequently declined. In order to understand India, it was necessary to discover the sacred and legal texts that were produced in the ancient period, for only those texts could reveal the real ideas and laws of the Hindus and Muslims, and only a new study of this text could form the basis of future development in India. Now, influenced by such ideas, many company officials argued that the British ought to promote Indian rather than Western learning. They felt that institutions should be set up to encourage the study of ancient Indian texts and teach Sanskrit and Persian literature and poetry. The officials also thought that Hindus and Muslims ought to be taught what they were already familiar with and what they valued and treasured, not subjects that were alien to them. Only then, they believed, could the British hope to win a place in the hearts of the natives. With this object in view, a madrasa was set up in Calcutta in 1781 to promote the study of Arabic, Persian and Islamic law, and the Hindu college was established in Banaras in 1791 to encourage the study of ancient Sanskrit texts that would be useful for the administration of the country. Not all officials shared these views. Many were very strong in their criticism of the Orientalist. Now let us talk about the second school of thought, that is of the Anglicist. From the early 19th century, many British officials began to criticize the Orientalist vision of learning. They said that knowledge of the East was full of errors and unscientific thought. Eastern literature was non-serious and light-hearted. So they argued that it was wrong on the part of the British to spend so much effort in encouraging the study of Arabic and Sanskrit language and literature. James Mill was one of those who attacked the Orientalist. The British effort, he declared, should not be to teach what the natives wanted or what they respected in order to please them and win a place in their heart. The aim of education ought to be to teach what was useful and practical. So Indians should be made familiar with the scientific and technical advances that the West had made, rather than with the poetry and sacred literature of the Orient. By the 1830s, the attack on the Orientalists became sharper. One of the most outspoken and influential of such critics of the time was Thomas Babington Macaulay. He saw India as an uncivilized country that needed to be civilized. According to him, no branch of Eastern knowledge could be compared to what England had produced. Who could deny, declared Macaulay, that a single shelf of a good European library was worth the whole native literature of India and Arabia. He urged that the British government in India should stop wasting public money in promoting Oriental learning, for it was of no practical use. With great energy and passion, Macaulay emphasized the need to teach the English language. He felt that knowledge of English would allow Indians to read some of the finest literature the world had produced. It would make them aware of the developments in Western science, philosophy. Teaching of English could thus be a way of civilizing people, changing their taste, values, and culture. Following Macaulay's minute, the English Education Act of 1835 was introduced. The decision was to make English the medium of instruction for higher education and to stop the promotion of Oriental institutions like the Calcutta Madrasa and Banaras Sanskrit College. These institutions were seen as temples of darkness that were falling of themselves into decay. English textbooks now began to be produced for school. In 1854, the Court of Directors of the East India Company in London sent an educational dispatch to the Governor-General in India, issued by Charles Wood, the President of the Board of Control of the company. It has come to be known as Wood's Dispatch, outlining the educational policy that was to be followed in India. It emphasized once again the practical benefits of a system of European learning as opposed to Oriental knowledge. One of the practical uses the dispatch pointed to was economic. European learning, it said, would enable Indians to recognize the advantages that flow from the expansion of trade and commerce and make them see the importance of developing the resources of the country. Let us rewind what we have learned today. William Jones, Henry Thomas Colebrook, and Nathaniel Halhed were busy discovering the ancient Indian heritage, mastering Indian languages, and translating Sanskrit and Persian works into English. In early 19th century, many British officials began to criticize the Orientalist version of learning. They said that the knowledge of the East was full of errors and unscientific thought. In 1854, Wood's Dispatch, an educational dispatch, was sent to India outlining the educational policy that was to be followed in India. Let us see what you have grasped today. Here are some questions for you. Your question number 1 is, in 1783, a person came to India who was a linguist. He was appointed as a junior judge at the Supreme Court. He was, the options are A. Warren Hastings, B. William Jones, C. Henry Thomas, D. Thomas Macaulay. And the correct answer is B. William Jones. Your next question is, who said a single shelf of a good European library was worth the whole native literature of India and Arabia? And the options are A. Thomas Macaulay, B. Warren Hastings, C. Lord Wellesley, or D. James Mill. And the correct answer is A. Thomas Macaulay. Your third question is, when was the Madrasa set up in Calcutta? And the options are A. 1770, B. 1775, C. 1781, or D. 1785. And the correct answer is C. 1781. Your fourth question is, the English Education Act was introduced in the year, and the options are A. 1820, B. 1834, C. 1835, or D. 1836. And the correct answer is C. 1835. It's practice time now, and here is some homework for you. And your question number 1 is, who are Orientalists? Your question number 2 is, who are Anglicists? Your question number 3 is, why did William Jones feel the need to study Indian history, philosophy, and law? And the question number 4 is, why did James Mill and Thomas Macaulay think that European education was essential in India? In our next module, we'll discuss about what happened to the local schools. Till then, take care of yourself, stay home, stay safe. Thank you.